Hello, my lovely child of the internet. It is I, Multi126789, other known as Multi-Man. Welcome to another Let's Have a Tips and Tricks video for Rune Factory 5. So today we're going to be talking about all the might and power that magic has in this game. As you can see, I have my two friends here who are also magically inclined. And we're going to go ahead and start talking about magic and how we can make it such a potent and dangerous weapon in this game. So if you would follow me outside, let's go ahead and begin. So magic is one of the major ways that you can deal a lot of damage and engage with the combat in this game. So before we get started, let's go ahead and talk over the elements in the game. So we have over here on the right side of the screen, we have our elemental defenses for all of the elements in the game. So we have fire, water, earth, wind, light, dark, and love. All 7 of these elements have various spells associated with them, and also have various different effects that they can have depending on your proficiency with them. Now, before we get started, I will say that currently we are about at the point of the game where you have all your marriage candidates, and you're about to start the mid part of the second act, I suppose you could say. So, as you can see, a lot of my skills are quite high, other than water. But I just wanted to make a brief note that some of these skills increase heavily depending on other things you do. Fire is something as long as you do cooking or foraging, or even chemistry, this will go up. Water will go up if you do fishing or using water magic. Earth is increased either by mining or doing field work or using earth magic. Wind is just naturally existing. Sometimes it will level up when you get the little RP orbs from getting or picking up your crops. Light is used primarily from light magic, and dark is usually used from dark magic. And love is something that you get for basically giving presents to your animals or your townsfolk, and also using healing magic. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to say that there's a lot of things that you can do with magic, and you don't need to primarily be a magic user to be able to use magic efficiently in this game. Now, I will say if you want to make a magic build, that there's a few things that we're going to go over that you can do to make yourself very good with magic and be able to take out any dangerous enemies at any point in the game. So let's see. So let's quickly go over what type of weapon you want to make if you're going to be a primary magic user. We want to go to make weapons, and we want to go all the way down to make a staff. Now, making staffs are basically the best way to get magic attack increase. As you can see, the higher tier the actual staff is, the more magic attack you're going to get. So I guess the highest one I can make right now is going to be this wizard staff, so we're going to go ahead and make that. It's considered a light element, which is nice. So right now it's using whatever material that it needs. Now if you go over here, if you want to make your magic attack even more potent, I would suggest either grinding up, let's see, these magic crystals, because those give up a pretty good flat rate and are easy to find. We have some of the intelligence increasing stuff that also raises your base magic attack as well. Though a lot of them are higher level than, you know, higher level than like 30, so it's going to be hard to use that. But I would personally recommend, because there are a good few magic items that you can get, like roots really early on that gives a +8 magic attack, or magic powder. Now these are usually found in the first beginning dungeons. These are usually found by the elements / magician enemies that float around and shoot magic, and these are just found from any of the plant enemies. Both of these are very good for starting off to increase your magic attack by quite a chunk, without having to be, I don't know, forage level like 60 or above. So let's see. I think we'll add like 1 or 2 of these because we just want it to be a little bit more potent. And then also I do have a lot of this fairy dust that I have from my fairy that I own. So, and then what I would suggest for the last one, depending on what type of elemental rod you would want, depending on whatever element you want to increase, I'm personally going to turn this into a water rod, mostly because I want to increase my water proficiency. But if you wanted to increase your light, you can keep it a light rod without putting a crystal, a different type of elemental crystal in there. Because all the elements have a crystal associated with them. we have you know, the water, we have the fire, we have the dark, we got the earth, we got the wind, and we got the light, and eventually, even though I don't have access to it yet for this video, and why we will have a separate video for love, there will be a love crystal, which will be probably the strongest element in the game, because love is an element that very little monsters resist. But anyways, after you put all of your stuff in here and increase your magic attack by a good chunk, you can go ahead and click OK, and it will craft it for you, and whatever elemental crystal you put in, it will also change it to that element. So now we have a wand that now basically does the water special. So if you charge up your wand, it will now shoot out an ice field, which is pretty good considering that, you know, originally it was a light one. It was a light attack, which shoots out light energy balls, but we do have better light Rune abilities rather than the actual wand abilities. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started in showing off the magic in just a second here. But before we go off, again, I'm going to go ahead and make some extra stuff for our girls here, and then we're going to go ahead and shove off. So I will see you guys in just a second as we go ahead and do some demonstrations of magic. Alright, so coming back in, welcome back to the video. So coming back in, I'm going to quickly go ahead and show off all of the magic types that you have at your disposal at this point of the game that I'm at. So if we go over to our Rune abilities, then we have quite a few abilities that we have unlocked. So, at the beginning of the game, you'll have Fireball, then you'll eventually get Inferno, Explosion, and Gathering Comet. Out of all these skills, Fireball, Inferno, and Gathering Comet are my preferred fire spells. These are easy to use because they do multiple hits and also have a big radius. Explosion is also good, but also it takes a few seconds for your character to recharge and use it. We have the water skills. We have Water Laser, Parallel Laser, Delta Laser, and Impact Laser. All of these are straight shooting, very long-reaching water attacks that you can hit multiple times if you hold down the button. They're pretty good. I prefer to use any other type of magic rather than water, but they are pretty good skills if you like using your rod and keeping out of range. So we have Earth. So for the Earth, we had Earth Spike, Grand Spike. There were a few others that were also called Earth Screw, and I believe Earth Terra, which basically some of these are close range and some of these are long range attacks. Earth Spike and Earth Grand Spike this one is the one that travels under the ground, which is a recommended skill from me personally, because it travels towards the enemy, so you don't have to commit to getting too close. And this one is one that activates and shoots a thing underneath an enemy, which will cause them to knock down if they are able to, and then take a little bit of damage. Personally, I think, again, Earth Spike is very good for something we'll explain in a little bit. Then we have Sonic Wind, we have Double Sonic Ricochet, and Sonic Storm. Sonic Storm is a later endgame skill, but if you don't have Sonic Storm at this point, Double Sonic or Sonic Ricochet is pretty good. Double Sonic will shoot two homing projectiles that are wind-based at enemies from a pretty fair distance. And Sonic Ricochet, if you're in a room with walls, it will ricochet off of walls even if it doesn't hit the enemy, which is pretty good. Light Barrier, and Plasma. We have Prism, and we had Light Barrier. Well, no, it's not called Light Barrier, but there was another one that's called Light Spears. Basically, these light moves are all kind of close range magic attacks. Basically, how I would explain it is that basically all of the lighted skills are kind of defense oriented to help you be able to keep enemies at bay or dizzy them or stun them, so you can be able to keep your distance. Me personally, I used a lot of Light Barrier until I got Prism, because Prism is basically a better Light Barrier. Light Barrier hits about 8 times, while Prism stays up for around 5 to 6 seconds, so it can hit an enemy multiple times, basically juggling them infinitely and not letting them die if they are very weak or susceptible to light. And then we have our darkness skills. We had Dark Orb, we have Dark Snake, we have Darkness, and we have Dark Absorber. Now, me personally, out of all the dark skills, Darkness is the strongest skill in the game. Now, I'm going to show off why, But if you think Darkness is not that good, Darkness has a good ability to have really strong base knockdown. Like how I spoke about Ground Spike is basically what Dark Ball, Dark Snake, Darkness, and all these other dark moves basically just do for free. Like, Darkness is actually a very potent ability because it can stun lock bosses and tougher enemies that if you're having trouble, you can knock them down by using one of these spells and then being able to use your weapon to be able to subdue the enemy. So, let's go ahead and show off some of the combinations of what I personally enjoyed using. We're going to show off quite a few of them because there are quite a few combinations in this game that you can use that allow you to be able to go off with magic, but it's all really dependent on whatever you personally feel like using. Alright, so now that we got all of these equipped, so I can show off. Now, right now I wanted to show off a technique that we call magic canceling. So, in this game, if you want to use magic, you can use one spell at a time if you really wish, and they'll have whatever effect. As you can see, Darkness and Prism don't seem that powerful by themselves. But, what if we showed you that if you canceled them, you can actually make them more potent? By canceling and timing your button presses over and over, something like Darkness will absorb enemies nearby, and then your Prism ability will then combo them by hitting them with multiple light and dark magic at the same time. So for example, I'm going to get far away from these enemies and I'm going to start using this. Now, again, Darkness is a very strong move because it automatically makes it so the gravity and the movement of enemies gets closer to you. Now, that's pretty scary because if you're not ready for enemies to be closer to you, that could lead to some dangerous things. But if you want, you can basically force enemies that are very high level that you don't really want to get approached by to be approached just by you using this. It's a very useful technique. Let's see. What else we can do? So light moves are very good for starting up a chain of magic. So you can do like light barrier into wind or light barrier into fire. And it's all super good. So one of the things I think is also really good with certain chaining is Comet, because Comet, as you can see, when you summon it, it summons 5 bolts. Now you could do this into that, into this, or you could do Comet into Darkness into Comet. And the good thing about which move was it called? I think it was called Darkness Orb. Basically, it travels a set distance and it also has a gravity field. So you can basically launch multiple of them and drag them into powerful or more difficult enemies without having to risk yourself getting hurt. Now, of course, we're showing these on some earlier types of enemies. So we're going to be actually going to a higher level dungeon, and I will be showing you what sort of powers that we can use to be able to destroy enemies quite quickly. So I'm going to quickly switch over to a dungeon, and I'll be right back. So, welcome to one of the areas in the second act. We're in the Thunder Wasteland. Now, I wanted to show off how your magic can be very useful for you in higher level areas if you don't have a lot of stats. Because a lot of enemies and a lot of areas can be very dangerous, of course. But using combinations of magic like Darkness and Wind, and Darkness and Wind, or Fire and Wind, allows you to keep the tempo while also being able to dish out as much damage as possible. Being able to throw out multiple moves like this and allow yourself to move from dangerous obstacles, like in this case, there's an automatic thunder that keeps getting thrown around. Being able to magic cancel or dash cancel out of your magic allows you to keep a lot of tempo. To show a better demonstration of even how powerful magic canceling is in this game, we're going to go ahead and show off me destroying quite a few bosses. Because in this game, magic can be very useful as long as you know the timing of your magics and being able to use them correctly. So we're going to go ahead and head to one of the other dungeons, and we're going to go ahead and get started with showing off how we can eradicate bosses and basically grind for a little bit of directive points without having to worry too much about taking damage. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, so entering the heart of, the Whispering Woods, in the Forest of No Return, we're going to go ahead and take on this boss. It's the Deader Tree. Now this one will shoot up rock element attacks, which you're going to have to be careful of. But if you stay your hand and just go ahead and throw all this magic, he kind of won't survive. I'd be scared, bro, but you're the one who's about to take a lot of damage, so... Like 0 damage. You can melt all kinds of boss quickly for boss grinding if you would like, because, again, magic canceling just allows you to kind of just go in on every enemy's life without having to worry or concern yourself about having to do a lot of physical damage, because physical damage does get a little bit less potent as the game goes on, but if you ever find like that's the case, we have some weapons here that also you can put in imbue with different types of elements. So for an example of that, we're going to go to the next boss on my list. We're going to show off why putting magic on your weapons is now really important. I'm going to pick up the girls because they're kind of unconscious, and then we'll go ahead and head over there. So I'll see you guys in a second. So entering the Mithril Mines depths, there's going to be a boss here who has a lot of physical resistance, but is weak to one element, which is fire. So being able to put magic on your weapons, if you want to be able to be potent against certain enemies, is also a viable strategy if you don't want to commit to just using magic moves or skills. So beating the Leviathan with an actual weapon is very possible as long as you give the right element for the job. As you can see, we're kind of melting through his HP because he's weak to fire. And the girls are doing their support by throwing their own magic. Ow. And with that, it's done. So with magic canceling, knowing how you can manipulate magic in the game and how you can transfer it over to your weapons, it's the most important thing to be able to make magic and your intelligence stat and all of your other stats very useful in this game. As you can see, I don't have that high of an intelligence stat, but with base magic attack being as high as it is, and if I equip a weapon that gives me more magic attack and being able to magic cancel, it basically makes it just as effective as any other physical weapon in the game. And all you have to worry about is magic defense, which, as long as you're hitting something that doesn't absorb an element, you can usually kind of burn through their magic defense because they won't be able to take the onslaught of magic that you're using. But thank you everybody for watching this Tips and Tricks video. If you have any other questions about the magic, or about different types of spells, or what combinations would be really good with each other, you can always leave it down in the comments. If you made it this far, a like or a subscription for more of these videos will always be appreciated. But I have been Multi126789, other known as Multi-Man, and I will see you lovely chows of the internet next time for another Tips and Tricks video on Rune Factory 5. So ciao ciao, until then.